Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live session. If you are watching this on Instagram, this is an Instagram live for the Wealthy Moves podcast, as well as for Instagram. And if you are watching or listening to the Wealthy Moves podcast, you can watch it on Spotify, you can listen to it on Apple. We are doing a completely live broadcast, which I've never done before, but I think I'm going to keep it up because it'll hold me accountable. And it's been a little while since we've done the Wealthy Moves podcast. I took about a month off, and it was so necessary and so needed because I got a lot of contract work during that time, and I just was spreading myself way too thin. So I'm so happy to be back. It's our first episode back on the Wealthy Moves podcast. And if you've seen my latest post, you know that I have been talking about what is right with you and your yoga teacher archetype. And that's really what today's podcast is going to be about. We're going to talk about what is right with you. I am a big ambassador and a big promoter of figuring out what is right with you so that you can supercharge those things and it'll counteract and counterbalance some of the things that we're not as strong in, right? And then also, I feel like so many coaches, so many mentors, so many things that you see on Instagram use this kind of clickbait language where it's like, this is what you're doing wrong, and 10 steps to get the customers you need because you don't have the customers you want, and all this stuff. It uses all of this negative connotation stuff. And I feel like we get so freaking much of that we literally do not need that. So I like to focus on, and this isn't just toxic positivity. It's not. This is something that I've always done, in my manager roles. I always would focus on what was someone doing right and how can we continue to magnify their light and shine brightness on what they do right to kind of counteract some of the stuff that makes it difficult for people in whatever realm that they're in. Hello, welcome in. If you are watching this live on Instagram, again, this is a live Wealthy Moves podcast, and I'm super excited. I'm really excited to get into it. So we're going to hop right in because you know how I love to do things short, sweet, and to the point. So as we explore what is right with us, I started to come up with this idea of the yoga teacher archetypes. If you don't know, part of the human experience is this learning of who you are. That's why people get so interested in astrology, or they want to do these deep dives of what your birthday means or what your angel number means and all of this stuff. It's because we want to get in touch of who we are. And as I was exploring that, as well as the concept of what is right with us, I decided to create some yoga teacher archetypes. And these archetypes came from my time at the yoga studio, my time working in corporate yoga. And I just felt like, okay, I'm going to create these archetypes. We're going to push this what is right with us. And if we can know who we are as a yoga teacher, then we can use that in our yoga business ventures, right? So we're going to hop into who is who. Hello to everyone that's hopping on Instagram. Again, this is a live broadcast for the Wealthy Moves podcast. So I'm super excited that everyone can be a part of it today. And if you have questions as I'm going through this, don't hesitate to drop them in there and we'll just make it part of the podcast. This will be broadcast on Apple and Spotify. So let's talk about the yoga teacher archetypes. The first yoga teacher archetype, and you can feel when you hear these yoga teacher archetypes, there is one that is your main archetype. That's the case for all of us. But of course, we're going to resonate with a few different ones. But as we go through these yoga teacher archetypes, I'm actually starting to build some freebies around these yoga teacher archetypes. So there will be a content guide for your yoga teacher archetype and a business guide for your yoga teacher archetype, a website for your yoga teacher archetype where you can just download the template and it'll be ready for the kind of energy that you give off, right? So just know that there are freebies that are coming with the yoga teacher archetypes and deeper dives as well. We're going to hop into our first yoga teacher archetype, which is the collegiate. Raise your hand if you're the collegiate, and you might want to listen to all 8, just like 8 limbs of yoga. There are 8 yoga teacher archetypes. You might want to listen to all 8 before you say, oh, that's me. Because you're going to resonate again with some of them, but there's some of them that you're just, that's who you are. That's like you over encompassing. So the collegiate. The collegiate is the yoga teacher that is that lifelong learner. And yes, as yoga teachers, I know one of our favorite phrases is, I am the forever student. I'm always going to be learning. Yes, we get that. We know. I've been there. Trust me. We all know that. We all know that. I ran literal teacher training, so we all know that. However, this person, the collegiate, is really dedicated to that continuous self-improvement. They're that person that has done every single course that you can imagine. They've done the yen training. They've done the prenatal. They've done their 200, their 300 hour. They may have even done the 200 and 300 hour at a few different yoga schools. They're probably Reiki level 1, 2, and 3. I mean, anything you can think of, this person has dove into it. That is the collegiate. If this is sounding like you, raise your hand because you're the collegiate. They invest in their yoga education, offering specialized workshops, training sessions, online courses to showcase their expertise. And they're kind of the Jane or the Jack of all trades, right? They fit into all these different categories of yoga, and it can sometimes be difficult to know where to shine their light the brightest, but encompassing everything that they have learned is the best place for them to start. So they have this ability to explain the science and the philosophy of yoga in a way that makes it simple for people to understand. So that is our first archetype, the collegiate. Moving on to archetype number 2. I have a friend who fits this archetype. I have friends that fit every single one, and I'm hoping on the podcast for the next 8 weeks, I'm going to go over deep dives into the yoga teacher archetypes. Hello, everyone hopping in. I'm going to do deep dives into the yoga teacher archetypes and make a podcast episode specific to that archetype so that person can learn more about what is right with them. So Kaya, my friend Kaya, this is so you, the Gypset girly. The Gypset girly is someone who combines their love of travel and cultural exploration with their wellpreneur practice. So they might organize different retreats in exotic locations. They're offering a unique blend of adventure and self-discovery. Their marketing strategy really focuses on holistic benefits of yoga, combined with travel, combined with attracting kind of that wanderlust-driven kind of yogi. That is the Gypset girly, and I literally started off calling this the Kaya girly almost because she fits all of those things. She has been living abroad in Mexico and other countries for the last, I think since she was like 20 years old. So if you haven't listened, I haven't actually done a full podcast with Kaya, but if you haven't listened to my live with Kaya that I did probably a few months ago, we were both like in fur jackets. It was a whole thing. Give that a listen. You can check her out. She is Airbar Fit on Instagram. But that's the Gypset girly. This girl is always traveling. I see her like once a year, and she's always creating that community of wanderlust and what is next and embracing that exoticness and embracing different cultures. Number 3, raise a hand if you're the asana alchemist. Jyothi is my call out for that. And yeah, I'm calling out my friends on here. They're going to love it. Trust me. So the asana alchemist is that innovator, that creativity kind of person in their yoga practice. They're adding in moves that are those traditional yoga moves, but brought into a different light. You'll be drawn to this asana alchemist if you love a unique sequence, if you love these different workshops, if the classes that you want need a little different challenge, need a little spice. They really inspire their students by taking different varieties of yoga and bringing them all together, getting those different modalities. We have the modality mixer later, but getting some of those different modalities and bring that together in an asana form. They have this really dynamic experience and appealing to those that are seeking something fresh and exciting. So every time you come to their class, you never know what the sequence is going to hold. This is also some of my handstand girlies. If you're one of my inversion girlies that are always going upside down, doing these really cool techniques, doing poses that like we haven't even seen and heard of yet, you are an asana alchemist. The fourth yoga teacher archetype is the yoga socialite, which is my archetype 100%. I was putting together a quiz. There is going to be a quiz that drops tomorrow, and I will make sure to link this in the description box if you're listening to the podcast. And for my friends on Instagram, I'm going to do a post about it so you will see it. So a quiz is dropping tomorrow to help you find your yoga teacher archetype. But the yoga socialite is your girl right here. In this archetype, we really excel at building a strong community of students. We have like our yoga tribe. We're really sociable. We probably like to go on Instagram Lives. It's very easy for us to create content. And they use that social skill to collaborate, to host events, to build up their community as far as students as well as teachers. And their personal connections is really where it lies. They're very loyal, they're very engaged, and so they get that back from their teacher tribe as well as their students. The yoga socialite, I like to think of it, anytime I think of socialite, I think of Paris Hilton, right? Anybody else? Like, who else are you thinking of? I mean, I'm a millennial, so that's the first person I think of. So you think of how like she built this whole empire on just being herself and creating this community. She's always like the nicest person if you ever meet her kind of thing. And that's the yoga socialite. Are you ready? There's 4 more. I almost said 3 more. Clearly I can't count. I have my matcha right here. So we're going to take a sip of matcha, which is also going to be good for our people that are listening because you need a break when you're listening. Hello, everyone that's hopping in. We are doing a live broadcast of the Wealthy Moves podcast. And for those of you who are listening to this as a actual podcast, thank you for bearing with every time I greet people that come into the live room. Okay, number 5, yoga teacher archetype is, drum roll please. Always love to do a sound effect. The modality mixer. When I thought of this archetype, there's actually quite a few of you who I thought of. I thought of my friend Monica, who's getting ready to open her own Pilates studio. Congrats, Monica. I thought of my friend Roxanne. There's so many people that I thought of with this. The modality mixer. The modality mixer stands out by offering a diverse range of yoga styles and incorporating various wellness modalities. So just like our collegiate has done like all those amazing yoga studies, the modality mixer has done the yoga studies, and then they've mixed in Pilates training, and then they've mixed in some functional movement, and they might even be a physical therapist. And a lot of them are probably nurses or work kind of in that healthcare field. So they know the anatomy of the body really well. And then they mix and match that to fit the yoga practice. They provide a holistic approach to health. They're attracting students seeking comprehensive well-being solutions. It's kind of like that Iyengar teacher, like how they're getting really deep into the core of the muscles and like how you're rotating and things of that nature. It's that teacher, the modality mixer. Some of them even might be like jujitsu teachers. I know a few yoga teachers who actually practice jujitsu, and they combine that together and use that functional movement. That's the modality mixer. Hello, I see some beautiful faces that have just hopped in. I'm actually going to give waves to everyone that hopped in. So if you are watching this live, you get a little wave. And then for those of you who are listening to this just as a podcast, just know when I have these dramatic pauses, I'm giving someone a wave or I'm communicating with people in the real time kind of thing. So number 6, yoga archetype number 6, the rest champion. There's a couple of you who are the rest champions. Samantha, definitely at Radiate Rest on Instagram. Definitely the rest champion. We are talking about YOU, okay? This girly is the one that is in the pursuit of relaxation, of stress relief. Their go-to choice is the yin, the restorative practices, that yoga nidra. And they offer these specialized classes and workshops and retreats centered around relaxation, centered around rest, centered around that stress management. And that's their tribe. It's the people that have had these really high stress jobs and high stress situations that are seeking that balance and rejuvenation. Those are our rest champions. You know who you are. Next, number 7, the community activists. There are several of you who are the community activists. When I thought of this yoga teacher archetype, I thought of my friend Tamika. If you don't know Tamika Caston Miller, she is super legit. You can find her at Diva Transcending on Instagram, as well as she is one of the owners for Ashe Yoga. Definitely check them out. The community activist leverages their passion for positivity and change. They are socially conscious. They are in promotion of accepting people's differences and making that part of the tribe. They are speaking up for communities that are underserved and not as seen and not as heard, and making sure to bring them into the forefront. They organize charity events, donation-based classes. They have community outreach programs, and they make it a meaningful cause. I mean, Tamika's probably watching this and she knows that's who she is. That's the community activist. And our last but not least, yoga teacher archetype, the weekend warrior. I think of my friend Demetria when I think of the weekend warrior, because they are that yoga teacher that has so much love and so much passion for yoga, but they still have their full-time gig, and that's okay. You don't have to go and quit your corporate job just because you love yoga and you want to teach yoga. You can continue to do both of them. So last but not least is my yoga weekend warriors, our yoga teacher archetype of the weekend warriors. I think of Jennifer, I think of Demetria. The weekend warrior balances teaching with their personal practices and commitments, their family time. They're serving as an example of time management and discipline. They offer flexible class schedules and catering to busy individuals who seek that same type of inspiration and need help finding that balance. So you might see their classes just on the schedule in the afternoons when it's convenient. They may only have 1 or 2 classes on the schedule, and that's simply because they are balancing out the rest of their lives. So those are our 8 teacher archetypes, our yoga teacher archetypes. And I'm going to go over them briefly one more time for you. We have the collegiate. We have that gyp set girly, the asana alchemist, the yoga socialite, the modality mixer, the rest champion, the community activist, the weekend warrior, and that's it. Those are our 8 yoga teacher archetypes. I ended that on a up note, as if I was going to say one more, but I wasn't. You're not missing out on anything. So as I mentioned, I have a quiz dropping. It's a free quiz, so you might as well take advantage, literally F-R-E-E, free. Hello to a few people hopping in. If you're just hopping in, I'm doing a live broadcast of my podcast, The Wealthy Moves Podcast. If you have never listened to it, it's on Spotify and Apple, and Spotify gets a live version similar to this. They get to see the recording, and then Apple gets a recording of it. So hello everyone coming in. We are doing a little live broadcast here of the yoga teacher archetypes. If you didn't see my last post, definitely check it. There's 8 yoga teacher archetypes. I'm going to go over them one more time. The collegiate, the gyp set girly, the asana alchemist, the yoga socialite, the modality mixer, the rest champion, the community activist, and the weekend warrior. So in a world with so many yoga offerings, these archetypes help yoga teachers stand out, helps them connect with their ideal audience, and whether you're a yoga practitioner or a fellow yoga teacher, understanding these archetypes is going to bring valuable insight just about the diversity of yoga. One of my favorite things about being a yoga teacher and knowing so many other yoga teachers is that so many of us have studied with the same exact teachers, but the way we teach is completely different. What we got out of that was completely different. How we move into our practice and how we create our yoga businesses is completely different. And that's because we all have different archetypes. So we can all have the same yoga information. We could have all learned the same cueing. Many of my YogaWorks folks, we have all done the same 200-hour and 300-hour. We have studied with just about all the exact same teachers, especially in the 300-hour, because you get a mix of every single teacher we have out there. But when it boils down to it, our styles, our energy is so different. So when people say the yoga teacher career is like saturated, or if they say that like working in fitness is saturated, I call bullshit on that. And I'm saying it straight up. I call bullshit on that. And I call bullshit on that because we all bring something different to the table. We all have our own archetype and we bring something different to the table. And even if there's 5 people watching this that are the weekend warriors, even though you're the weekend warrior, doesn't mean that you're offering the same thing the other weekend warrior archetype is. There's so many differences between all of us that creates this amazing space, right? So that is our live broadcast for today. I'm going to do my best to keep this up, y'all. I actually love going live. I'm really comfortable. Hence why I have the yoga socialite archetype, because I'm comfortable being live. This is like my happy place, and it keeps me consistent with the podcast. Hello, hot yogi moms. Speaking of the yoga socialite archetype, hot yogi moms definitely fit into the yoga socialite archetype. We love to be like creating the content, creating our tribes, building that community. That's our whole vibe. So yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I love seeing some of the different archetype people hop in. So stay tuned to the Wealthy Moves podcast as we dive deeper into each archetype. I'm going to have someone on for each single one so that you can do a deep dive with them. And if that's your archetype, you can find like a fellow person. You can find a little comrade. Y'all can be besties, you know. I'm all about creating community, so y'all will be besties. We'll make it happen. So again, thank you for listening to the Wealthy Moves podcast / the live Instagram Wealthy Moves podcast, and I will see everyone soon. Have a beautiful day, everybody.